When you start building skills, there is always this one question. Is Claude actually getting better with a skill, or it could do the same work without it? A skill that trigger is not the same as skill that works. And until 3 weeks ago, there was not a fast way to find this out. In part 1, we built a handover skill, and it was far away from perfect. In this video, we're gonna bring something what works fine into something what really brings value. Building a good skill is a process. It requires deep understanding of the workflow and clear success criteria of the outcome. Your first version never will be perfect. You can only discover what needs fixing by actually using a skill across different situations and across different scenarios. Only practice and a real case scenario can show you what's missing in your skill. The problem was, until recently, you had to figure this out in a hard way. You build a skill, you test it multiple times, and by doing this, you find out what works. Next, you would adjust the instruction or adjust the wake-up signal and try it again. All of the process was very manual and time-consuming. March 3rd, 3 weeks ago, Anthropic changed that. The skill creator, which we used in the last episode, now tests your skills too. It compares results between using a skill and not using the skill, or between the old version and a new version of the same skill. And something really interesting here is that Claude can also judge the results. It's gonna separate instances and blindly judge the results. So I took my handover skill, spent an hour by fine-tuning and going back and forth with Claude. What came out on the other side is a totally different skill. Quick context if you didn't watch part 1. I built a handover skill. When conversation gets long, Claude creates a document with key decision, next steps, and everything what needs to be preserved for the next conversation. The results were promising, it triggers every time, and the outcome which I was getting was okay. Then I start using this across different types of work. In my case, the handover skills fire during a work which spread across multiple conversations. Mostly it is YouTube production, project work, and education. And something became obvious very early. I had one template for 3 different kinds of work. Handover has only one task: pass through the most critical parts of the conversation to the next one. So the big picture context is not lost between conversation. But for each work stream, YouTube, education, and projects, there are different unique elements. With projects, the most important is to keep track of the backlog. For YouTube, keeping the bigger picture and the creative intent. And here I noticed that things going south. When I ask for a project handover, it includes a section about YouTube content opportunities, which is total nonsense. And from the other side, when I ask for a YouTube handover, it also includes section related to the project work. The skills triggers every time, so that wasn't the problem. The problem was one set of instructions trying to cover 3 totally different workflows. And I was able to find this out only by testing the skill in a real life scenario. Basically, there are 3 ways how skill can fail. 1, inconsistent output, you having same request for a different structure, and that was my case. 2, over-triggering, the skills fires for things it shouldn't. And 3, under-triggering. You rephrase the request slightly differently and a skill doesn't load. If your problem is triggering, the debug trick from part 1 still works. Ask Claude when it should fire your skill. The gap between the answer you see on the screen and your actual workflow, that's something what you need to fix. However, if your problem is that's what skills produce, that's the instruction problem. And that's where the new tool comes in. So now we know what's wrong. The template is too broad and the instruction needs adjustments. The question, how to fix this without guessing what's wrong, and how to skip the manual testing process. At March 3rd, 2026, Anthropic shipped an update to a skill creator. Now it can test and evaluate your skills. 3 things that matter here. Number 1, Evals. It writes test prompts based on your skills. You just describe what good output looks like, and the skill creator tells if your skills holds up. Number 2, A/B testing. The output are being judged side by side, your skill against no skill or old version against a new version. Separate cloud instances, score them both without knowing which one is which one. And number 3, trigger testing. It analyzes your description against the sample prompts and suggests improvements. Anthropic tests this on their own skills, 5 of 6 improved. An absolute killer here, it just works in Claude.ai. You don't need to use your terminal, you don't need to use any code. You just need to ask, can you help me to evaluate my skill? And that's exactly what I did. I brought my old skill into Claude.ai and asked if he can help me to evaluate on this skill. Now I'm going to show you the recording of this session. Some of the parts are speed up and some of the parts of waiting are cutted. I just want to show you the entire process from start to finish so you can see exactly how easy it is to use this new evaluation skill. Okay, so the previous recording is lost. unfortunately. We're going to try again, and I'm gonna quickly show you how exactly the process of evaluation looks like. Hey, can you help me to evaluate on a skill? Claude is picking up the right skill. Okay, so first real question which you're getting is what skill are we want to evaluate on and what is the subject of the evaluation. I want to work on a brain dump skill. I don't really like the output which I'm getting. From that's what I see, I don't like grouping categories and overall structure of the columns. Another round of question which is very helpful because I don't really need to come up with a direction. Claude is really guiding me. If I want to use something different, I can always type what I really want. Let's go by context. So I want to see in my Excel sheet the task name, the project, the priority, the due date, and the notes. Claude is just picking up my feedback and going to adjust the skill as we discuss. The skill is updated. Claude actually came up with messy brain dump. To be honest, it looks a little bit like me. What is happening now, Claude is simulating a situation when I would use the skill. He create unstructured text with all of the different not related tasks, and he's trying to allocate all of this task across the column which you just choose. I just validate it looks okay for now. I'm gonna ask him to continue. This is looking okay, let's continue. So he's just coming up with more tests, which is actually really good. 4 more test cases. So he's actually suggesting me where I'm supposed to focus and which are the questionable things which he came up with, and I need to validate if that's something what I expect from the output. I like the results. I think the testing scenario were accurate. Okay, so the testing phase is completed. Now what is happening, Claude is working under the hood. All of the technical aspects are being executed by him, and he is packaging what we just discussed into a folder which gonna become a skill. Perfect. My skill is created. Claude driving me through all of the process. He asked me direct questions. I was just dictating what is my input, what is my feedback. The only thing which I need to do right now is just copy this into my skills. So I'm just gonna do this right now. Since I already have one skill with the same name, he's asking me to upload and replace one. And that's it. The entire evaluation just happened. I didn't have to execute any manual actions. Everything was driven by Claude. And now let's go back to the original plan. That's how it works. Fixing, testing, and replacing, everything is happening in one conversation. Your skill will be different than mine, and the type of skill you build change what kind of testing actually matter. Anthropic now formally defines 2 different types of skills. The first one is related to uplifting Claude. This is a skill that helps Claude do something what it can't do well by the default. We're talking about document formatting, PDF handling, or specific technical tasks which without the skill will be not possible to do. The risk here is that with model improvements, Claude is getting better and better at doing things by its own. So your skill might become redundant. Evals tell you exactly when it's happening. If side-by-side comparison showed Claude doing just as well with skill and without, you can retire your skill. In a previous part, we were pointing out 11 rules, and rule number 9 said, does Claude already do the job by default? And that's exactly the same part. Today, this specific task might require your skill. In 6 weeks, maybe the skills already will be not necessary because Claude will be able to handle this perfectly by its own. A second type is related to encoded preferences. This is a skill where Claude already knows how to do each piece by itself, but the skill sequences them in your way. My Handover skill is an example of that. Claude already knows how to write summaries and how to outline the next steps. I just asking Claude to do this in a very specific way and give me the very specific output, which without skill, Claude wouldn't give me by default. These skills are almost permanent. Your preferences don't change with the model update. One aspect to pay attention here is skill still matching the way how you actually work. The possible outcome is that your workflow change and your skill is already behind. And this brings us to 2 different questions, when to update and when to retire your skill. Update your skill with the workflow changes. What are the symptoms of that? First one, you keep hitting the same edge cases. And the second one, you notice you are phrasing your request differently than the descriptions cover. And when to retire? Very simply, when workflow doesn't exist anymore, or you build the better skills that cover the same ground. Let's do a quick recap. Part 1, we focused on what is a skill and how important it is to set up your wake-up signal correctly. In part 2, we break down 11 rules from Anthropic documentation how to build a good skill. And today we focus on changing something what works fine into something what brings real value to your work. If you miss part 1 or part 2, links are on the screen right now. Thank you for watching.